Okay, let's get into the good stuff. I'm thrilled to welcome Georgia Moore, an Australian romance author who writes heartfelt and steamy contemporary romances with confident heroines who are still figuring out what they want from life and heroes who've got emotional baggage to unpack. Georgia's debut novel, Four Night Stand, was released in 2024 by HarperCollins Escape imprint and was also picked up by the UK imprint Serendipity. It's a spicy, forced proximity workplace romance set in her hometown of Sydney, Australia. We're not consuming copious amounts of pop culture, mostly romance novels, I hear. Georgia can be found singing in a choir, eating an endless amount of carbs, which I'm so jealous about, and being overly competitive at board games and trivia. I'm terribly competitive too.
Yeah, you gotta be.
So we're going to have a great conversation today exploring Georgia's fiction writing life and hearing her take on writing romance, publishing and social media marketing. Georgia, welcome to Weaving Words into Stories with me, Selina. It's great to have you with us today.
Hi, Selina.
Thank
you so much for inviting me on.
Thank you. I'd really love for you, I know I've just introduced your novel, Four Night Stand, of which I have actually been reading on my Kindle. I would really love for you to tell us in your own words about the story and any fun, stories that you can share about how the idea came together.
Yeah, of course. So Four Night Stand is a standalone, steamy office romance. It's about two colleagues, Jules and Cameron, who've been talking on the phone for months, but they've never met in person. And then they get sent to a work conference together. And while they're there, they decide to have a conference fling. They're both kind of dealing with past relationships that have made them a little bit wary of dating. But as they spend time together at the conference, they both start realizing that maybe a fling isn't what they're after all. Yeah. And the way this story actually, I can tell you the thing that inspired this whole book. It was, I was at work one day and I was trying to access a publisher's website and it was blocked for containing adult content. And I got very embarrassed first off because I was like, oh my gosh, please no one be sent a little alert that someone's trying to access adult content at work. And I sent a message to my friends and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This thing just happened. But then immediately was like, but wouldn't this be a great start to a rom-com novel? And if you have read Four Night Stand, you know that is essentially the first scene of the novel. Jules is sitting in her boss's office, worried that she's about to be reprimanded because she's been caught reading erotica at her desk. Yeah, and that is it. Just from that little idea, the whole story came from that.
Oh, fabulous. Well, I've read a few chapters of it so far, and I'm sort of savoring it as I go through. And I'm loving how, your point of view is so strong to the characters. The characters come through on the page, and Cameron is gorgeous. And I love how they have a relationship already established through the phone. I love that about this story because to me, it's like they've already established some form of relationship and now it's going to take it to the next level. So it's not insta love. It's more than that. What kind of tropes did you sort of lean on in order to bring this story together?
Interesting. I mean, I think the first one that really came to me was that, the kind of setting of the work conference. So in a way, that's like a forced proximity thing. So it was going to be the two of them, away from their usual context, spending a lot of time together. And also the fling element. So when I market it, I think the trope I normally say is fling to forever. Which I discovered as I was looking for the marketing. I didn't know that one going in, but that kind of was quite a core of the story. And then, but I don't think aside from that, I necessarily had too many other, obviously office romance, workplace, that is one of my favorite forms of forced proximity, I will say, because that's a large portion of your life, 5 days a week, 9 to 5 every day that you're spending with these people. I think it's a really interesting space to do the forced proximity trope.
I think so too. And, a lot of people do kind of their whole world revolves around their job too. So it's a sense of we meet people we resonate with in the workplace and, anything can happen from there. I'd really love to just unpack a little bit about your Four Night Stand. How did you come up with the four? To me, that's quite a twist. What did you come up with there?
Yeah, interesting. I guess because I had it said at the work conference, I was like, Kate, like, it's roughly a week, which, although to be fair, that's probably a bit long for a conference.
Mm.
But yeah, and then it just came from that, I guess, how many nights in a work week are they going to be spending together? So yeah, and it wasn't just a one off, like, let's
Yeah.
do it once to get it out of our system. It was not that trope.
No, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I just love how unique it is for me as a reader to
Mm.
have something that's a little bit more meaty than that one night, and then they get together for a longer period of time. And I love that they both want something far more than just. Well, actually, I don't think Cameron really wants to be in a relationship at all at the start. It's very funny, by the way. I was laughing out
Good.
loud as I've been reading it. So it
Yeah,
is a
I'm
rom-com.
glad. I'm glad. I did, yeah, romance for me is definitely like I read it for enjoyment, so that I definitely want people reading my stuff to be enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I can say with hand on heart, everybody who's listening or watching this, please do go and get your copy of Four Night Stand. It is funny and good fun and really sweet, but also spicy.
Mhm.
So, as you went through your contract with your publishers, what was it like to have your story edited? Did you get any specific advice back from the editor about editing your novel?
Yeah. I mean, the editing process I love. I mean, I love just editing my own work anyway because it's where you can really see the story strengthening and getting stronger.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm.
my edits with Escape were like fairly like light touch, I think, because it was a digital only release. It wasn't a really intensive editing process. But there was one thing that my editor kind of said to me a few times through the manuscript that is something that I have taken with me now for all my future books. And it was this thing about trust your readers.
Mm.
So
Mm.
often there'd be a few times through the story where she'd highlight sections and she'd say, "You've already said this, you've already explained this. You don't need to repeat it again for the reader. They know, like they're with you on this journey and they will have remembered that information."
Mm.
And so that's definitely something that I now do with my future manuscripts. I've
Mm.
tried not to over explain stuff, to keep reminding readers of like the stakes, for example. Like they know that. And I think in the romance genre in particular, it's a really good bit of advice because as we know, romance readers are voracious. Like they are reading your book in a couple of days, if not in one sitting. Like they will
Mm.
remember what has been in the
Mm.
novel. Yeah. And I
Mm.
think there's also like, so there's that element of a craft perspective of keeping that in mind will help you avoid doing things like info dumping or too much exposition in chapters and stuff. But there's also kind of this element, I think, which is more about like the trust element, like the
Mm.
relationship that you have with your readers. And I had a quote that I want to read out.
Please do, yeah.
It felt very fortuitous. So Penny Carroll, who's a writer and an editor, she has a newsletter where she shares like editing tips. And her one this week was literally on this. It was called Trust Issues. And she
Mm.
had this quote about learning to trust your reader. So it was learning to trust your reader in this way can be scary. It feels a lot like giving up control. What if they don't get it? What if they miss something important? But trust is also about respect. When you take care not to over explain, you convey to the reader that you respect their intelligence and their
Mm.
role in bringing your story to life.
Yes.
So I think that's
Yes.
really important as well because, I know as a reader that sometimes I will get frustrated if an author is just repeating every single chapter over and
Mm.
over the same information because, I know
Mm.
that already. So if they're doing that to me, it makes me feel like they don't think I'm smart enough to remember that.
Yes, yes, and also it's about pushing the story forward and
Yeah.
not, having people having to go through repetitive stuff, and, as a fiction book coach, I often see that and have to think about that myself about trusting the reader, so it's such a great tip. Thank you for sharing that with us. I hope, people will take that on, and thanks for the quote as well. How cool is that?
Yeah, I know. That was good timing.
So your stories are heartfelt and they have steamy elements, often entwined. So I'm really curious to understand, how do you balance these two parts of your story to create a compelling romance?
It's a really interesting question. And because I am not a plotter, so I don't really plot out my books before I write them, like I don't necessarily have a formula or anything that I'm using to make sure I get that balance. And I actually remember with Four Night Stand, it was actually the third manuscript that I'd ever written, but the first
Right.
one that I decided to write as an open door romance. So with the sex scenes
Mm.
in detail on the page. And when I got it back from one of my first beta readers, they said to me, like, the spice is really good, but it's too much of that and the emotional story is lacking. So it's totally hard to balance. But I guess in a romance, the thing that can help with getting the balance is that you'll often hear writers say that the spicy scenes are emotional scenes as well. So if you
Mm,
can remember that through the story, that will help kind of bring that heartfelt element into some of the steamy stuff as well to keep carrying the romantic arc through when you have those
mm,
moments. Yeah, but otherwise, I would say, like, that's something that I look at more when I'm doing an edit.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
often the first step of an edit is I will just make a PDF of my Word document, so I'm not
Hmm.
tempted to edit as I go, and just do a read through of the whole thing like a reader, and I will just make notes as I go, and that is something I find I pick up on that read. I can tell when the pacing's a bit off, when, like, suddenly there's been a big emotional jump that the build-up's not been on the page, and I find that's probably the place where I will notice if there's an imbalance.
That is great. What a great tip. Especially because I don't know about you. Me, I've been terrible in the past. Yeah, oh, I'm gonna edit. I'm just gonna I'll just fix that on the way.
Yeah.
And you get stuck
Yeah.
and you can't see the big picture. So what I really love about that is it does give you that big picture. And I love that you talked about the pacing because that can make or break your story as
Mm.
well. So you need to have that pacing right. Oh, beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing that. Also, how do you approach character development to create such relatable and complex characters?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I don't plot, as I said, but
Mm,
character is the bit that I will spend probably the most kind of pre-writing time working out. And what I always need before I start writing is my character's GMC. So for people who don't know, that's goal, motivation, conflict. Comes from a writing craft book by Deborah Dixon, who basically breaks down this idea that each main character should have a goal, so something they're working towards, a motivation, like a reason why they want that thing, and a conflict, something that's stopping them from getting that. And they need that externally and internally. So
mm,
that is the bit that I will work out before I start. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in depth. I'm not the kind of person that will go and do like character interviews or do that kind of really deep kind of
mm,
character work. But I find if I have the GMC, it helps propel me through the first draft when I'm writing. And it is through the writing process that I will discover more about my characters just as I write them. Yeah, and actually, I remember I was watching a few years ago an interview that Sally Thorne did. So,
mm,
Australian romance author, wrote The Hating Game. And she said that for her with characters, that's something that, like, every time she goes through and does a rewrite, she'll just layer a bit more like personality onto her characters. So, that's kind of what I do as well. It's
mm,
like, I don't, because I feel like you don't want to hold yourself back from starting to write because you don't know what,
mm.
your birthday of your character is or whatever. It's like just write and that
Yep.
stuff can come. And if it becomes important to the story, then you'll figure out what that thing is.
Mm, mm.
So,
I really love that. That layering effect
mm,
that comes from writing that first draft, no matter how in depth you do or do not know your characters, it's like a skeleton
yeah.
draft, and then you can begin to fill it out along the way. And I love that you're talking about the emotional aspect as well. On top of they have that goal, that what they want, why they
Mm.
want it, and what's stopping them. And I guess how important is their emotional wound to your stories?
Yeah, I would say that that is a big thing as well. So, probably in addition to the GNC, having a clear idea of what their wound is, or that, there's a few
Mm,
different ways that people refer to it, like the
yep,
lie that they believe about
yep.
themselves, their kind of flaw. That is also a key thing that will help me as I'm writing, because obviously that's the thing, almost, it is the most concrete. Like, they start from this point, by the end, the wound's open and oozing, and
Yep.
now it's closed. That was a gross metaphor.
Sense. It's like they actually have been hurt or something stopping them from opening to love, and then they have to heal that. And
Yeah.
it's not always that other person, it's about that revelation inside as
Yes.
well that that other person does for them.
Yes, and that's right. Like you say, speaking of the other person in a romance, I think it's really important to know what that is because, generally the way that this kind of plot structure and character and the genre works is that
Mm,
if A has this wound, B is going to help them somehow heal that wound. it might not necessarily be a direct action that they take, but through their
Mm,
interactions or the way that they, B believes in character A or whatever, and through the course
mm.
of the book, then A will have grown enough to, heal that wound
Yeah,
themselves. So that
yeah.
is a really
And
key part of it.
I love that. Really own their stuff so that they can be ready. And I guess I think it's Gwen Hayes talks about it going from wholehearted, HOLE, to wholehearted, WHOLE, whole, as in holistic together.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that is a good one. I mean, I feel for me like that in terms of like a structure thing with that wound, like so the character has to heal it by the end of the book or,
Mm,
discover the truth about themselves beneath a lie they've been telling. And I always
mm,
find like it's really interesting to think of that as happening after that third act breakup. Like for me, when I'm writing,
mm.
that moment is then going to happen in that time period when the characters are actually apart. Like for me, I find it really, really satisfying if it's the moment when the characters actually aren't together anymore, that the character has the confidence and strength and know-how now to heal that wound.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does make sense. Yeah, because I guess in life we have these moments that we go through and we're kind of like in the middle of it. And then when we have time later to reflect, it's almost like we can learn the lessons. And
Mm,
that's what the characters are doing. And I think we need to, as writers, need to remember that we are writing characters to be humans. And this is a human experience that's universal in some ways. Like we all do have that opportunity to reflect and go, well, what was my part in it? What am
mm.
I stopping myself from getting? And oh my
Yes,
God,
that is
it's
it.
my thing,
You got to
what I
get out of your
want.
own way. Yeah.
And that's kind of like part of the purpose of that part of the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thinking about tropes again, I love tropes. I would really love for you to talk to me about what your favorite trope is and why.
I always say fake dating when people ask me for this fake dating and a little bit like marriage of convenience as well, I would say. And that is because for me, it's like the best of both worlds. So, like, obviously, you have them kind of like in a traditional romance, like meet cute, and they're like just learning about each other, and you get all the flirty banter and like, you know, the growing to
Yeah.
understand each other. But then also at the same time, you kind of have them in a relationship on top of that or enacting what they think a relationship should be like. So you're kind
Yeah.
of getting both at once,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, value for money.
Absolutely. That's great. And I'm really keen to understand, what do you really love about being a romance author?
I mean, there's so much that I love about it.
Mm,
I've always been a romance reader, like from all through my teens and stuff. It was like I was reading every book, waiting for that romance storyline to kick in. Like they are just the books that I was drawn to. And I've also really loved writing like my whole life, like even I remember in kindergarten being like really proud of my, like writing tasks, my writing homework. Yeah,
great.
I know.
You're such a
And
little heart.
yeah. And I started like in high school, I started writing like fan fiction. That's like where I started this kind of romance writing essentially, very common for romance authors, I think, to hear that
Yeah.
story. But yeah, because it's just been like it's actually just joyful, like writing
Yeah.
these romance stories about love and about characters and writing the banter and writing the big feelings and the swoons and the grand gestures and stuff. Like I just enjoy that. Like it's
Mm.
fun for me and it makes me happy. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's lovely. And also,
Yeah. Go on. Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, go on.
yeah, yeah, all good. I really love this. I got a lot to say.
Yeah, I love it. No, please tell us. I want to
Well,
know.
yeah, I mean, I was going to say the other thing is now that like since I started writing original fiction and I've gotten more involved in like the romance
Mm,
writing community, like that is another big part these days for me. Is just the romance writing community in Australia in particular is
mm.
just filled with like wonderfully supportive, really generous and kind people, and so
Yes.
that's also like really lovely.
It
Yeah,
is. Community is huge here. And again, going to do a shout out to the Romance Writers of Australia,
yeah.
of which even my writing would not have improved as it has without having that support of the community, the aspirers group, the people that just embrace you and lift you up. And I think as writers, we really need that. There were some points there that you made that I was like, oh, I'm going to unpack that. And now I've forgotten.
dear.
That's all right. We'll move on. It'll come back to
If
me.
it comes back, that's right. I'll answer
It
it then.
will. It will. It will. Yeah, it'll come back. So we'll just go on to my other question, which is, do you have any rituals that help you to get into the mood, get into the flow of writing? I know that this is sometimes something I struggle with low, like if I feel like, oh, the story's not coming today. What do you do?
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I think for me, I wouldn't say rituals, but I'm
Mm,
I'm really a routine person. So I'm just
mm,
quite disciplined with like I work full time. So for me, and I'm a morning person. So I every morning I wake up, have breakfast, and then I go to the study and I write for about an hour before work.
all right.
And I
Mm,
just
mm,
have gotten into the habit of doing that every day.
mm, mm,
So you do have those days when, you know, you're not necessarily inspired. The muses aren't with you, but you're like, that is my writing time. And because I often have like things I do in the evenings after work, like my choir and my band,
mm,
I know that that time is all I'm really going to get that day to write. So I have to use it.
mm,
And if I'm not in the middle of a writing project, that time will be used to do like social media stuff or, write my newsletter or whatever. But
mm.
it's just about for me the discipline of having that. Yeah.
That consistency, that
Exactly,
routine.
exactly, the
Yeah.
consistency. Yeah, the only really ritually kind of thing I have is more I think when I'm editing,
All
like
right.
I find that often I will like pop my headphones on and I'll listen to like lo-fi music, like without any vocals because I find that helps, my brain can be a bit chaotic sometimes, you're thinking of
Mm.
so many things at once, but I find that really helps just narrow down my focus.
Yeah, yeah. I think anything that kind of gets you in the flow is
Mm,
good. I think it was at the last Romance Writers of Australia conference, I was listening to Claire Connolly talking about having a music playlist that she listens to between when she's writing to keep her constantly in the story as well, which I thought was a really great tip. And lift your mood a little bit and get you more into that space where you're ready to write as well.
yeah,
It's almost like the brain goes, "Yes, this is it." And
I
it's
like
almost,
that.
yeah, like
I
when you
like
go
that.
into your room, your brain goes, "I know it's time to write," and so I write. Whatever you focus on, that's what you're doing there. I love that. I did remember one of my questions, and it was, what did you start with your fan fiction, and
Mm,
then what moved you to really embracing being an original romance writer, so to your own romance? Like, what was
yeah.
that transition like?
Yeah, that's interesting because I probably was writing fan fiction for like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like maybe a decade. That's
Mm,
maybe a bit less than that, but it was like quite a while. And also there was like a really strong community element as well, I will say, like, because I was in like the Tumblr days. So I was
no,
on
right, yes.
there and I was posting and like you could get that kind of instant feedback and people really hyping you up. And I really love that. And I think I always in the back of my head was like, oh, one day I'll write
Mm,
my own thing. But I never really devoted any time to actually sitting down and thinking of a story idea or anything. It was all my ideas were kind of being diverted to like the fanfic, I guess, in a way. It's like,
yeah.
oh, I could write this AU with this characters where this happens. Like I didn't in my head. But then I actually credit a lot of this to one of my friends
Mm,
because so I met her in high school and she is a writer. That is her profession.
mm,
She's a playwright
mm,
and a screenwriter.
mhm,
And I honestly think just by like through our friendship and coming into contact with her, it was just someone in my life who I knew personally that I could look at and go, writing is like a thing that you can do as a like seriously, like as a career.
mm,
And I think it was really just like, yeah. So honestly, I think it was that connection
mm.
that kind of clued my brain in. And then it was just one year, I remember I decided to do National Novel Writing Month.
Yes.
And that was really because I feel like I'd been thinking of it for years. And I just, when you're in these kind of online spaces like Tumblr or whatever, there's always this big
Mm,
buzz around it and people are talking
mm,
about it and getting excited about it. And I was just getting excited about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And that was like, a few weeks before I think. So like, very little planning. But as we know, I'm not
mm.
a plotter. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I did it. I wrote on my phone on the bus to and from work and I got the 50,000 words and, kept writing through December and finished the
Wow.
manuscript and
Wow.
yeah, and it was like great.
I love that you had someone who inspired you to find your own voice in writing. There's nothing wrong with doing fan fiction and learning as you go, because I think that really helps you build your craft and your voice. Your That's one way to really develop your own writing voice, but also it's kind of emulating somebody else who's done it before. And I think as a coach, one of the things I often say to my writers is try not to use other people's words. Find your own way. This is your story. Make it as unique and individual to you. You know, you can still, yeah, we have words, they are the fabric of our stories, but it's that you bring your own specialness to that story, your own special, unique view. And I'm waffling now. So let's move on to spicy scenes.
Okay,
Woo!
yeah,
I
with
don't know if
pleasure.
let's, woo, yes, with pleasure. And that's what it's about, ladies and gentlemen out there and others. So many writers do find the craft of writing spicy scenes quite challenging, including myself. Do you have any tips at all for authors who may feel daunted by writing an intimate moment or moments on the page whilst also feeling exposed themselves?
Mm. Yeah, it is a tough one because I feel like particularly in the romance genre, because, there is a bit of that outdated way of thinking where
Mm,
some people assume that, if a romance writer writes this kind of spicy scene on a page, it means they've done it or they want to do it. And the
mm,
credit isn't given to like, well, we're creatives and we can just kind of make this stuff up. Like
mm,
people aren't
mm.
asking the crime writers if they've killed people.
No.
It's that kind of thing. So there's that element, like this cultural thing, which can be at play in your mind when you're writing.
Yeah.
But I actually just saw, I mean, you mentioned Claire Connolly earlier. I saw on Instagram, I think recently, she did a course on writing these kind of spicy scenes. And one of her bits of advice was don't think about the readers when you're writing them, which
Mm,
it can be hard, easier said
mm,
than done, but I think it's a really key piece of advice. And I think what I would say then is don't think about the readers. You want to be thinking about the characters. This scene
mm,
is a scene in your book and it will need to have an impact on the characters in some way. It's,
mm.
yeah, it is, sex scenes are emotional scenes. So you really like try and think less about the external stuff and more about like internally in the context of your book what is
Yes.
this scene doing? But if you're daunted, like I will say, like you don't have to write them. Like I know in romance, I think people see there's a trend towards spicier and spicier novels,
Mm,
but there's always going to be readers for every kind of book. So if you're really not comfortable writing the scenes, you don't have to write them. But the other thing is there's also different levels that you can write them. So when I'm
mm.
writing, I go quite detailed. Like you really know what is happening, but you don't have to write them like that. You can do it really more like emotionally led, quite lyrical as opposed to
Mm.
super detailed. So that could be like a good place to start if you don't want to dive straight into
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I wrote my very first one for the Spicy Bites. It's the RWA Romance Rose of Australia Spicy Bites anthology. I missed out by like one or two.
No.
Oh, just a minute. Anyway, but I got a great story out of it, and I think and lots of great feedback, which is one of the real benefits of going into the competitions and just stretching out of your
Mm,
comfort
mm.
zone. I think, and I got to say, I couldn't have done it without the support of the Aspirers group who encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and do it. Had so much fun writing it. Do you have so much fun writing the spicy scenes? Or what do
Yeah.
you enjoy? Like, what do you enjoy?
I actually have a lot of fun writing them. And I was going to say that that is like something that I would tell people, to maybe take some of the fear away when they're writing that, like, I actually think the sex scenes are some of the most fun scenes you can write in the book because you can like play around the most with them and I mean that like on the prose level, like with the actual
Yep.
writing of them. Like I think this is the place where you can be the most experiential and like kind of break the writing rules a bit and just like try things out and have fun
Yeah.
because there's such emotionally driven scenes, I guess, often. I think
Yes.
you throw the rules out the window. It's like you can use run on sentences, like a paragraph that is a whole sentence long or lots of short, sharp sentences in a row after each other, or have dialogue that's like half thought and then half spoken, or use repetition, use metaphors. Like actually, I think you can really have fun writing them.
Yeah. Well, actually, you just triggered something in my memory. I've been doing history, mystery, and magic course with Kate Forsyth, and one of the things she talks about is pacing in the sentence length. So
Mm,
often, like if you want to build suspense, you can do short, sharp things, and the reader will take a breath at the end of each sentence. But also, you can use very long sentences, so they run out of breath and feel a bit. And I guess it's the same for writing spicy scenes. You can write that heat level that gets people feeling fantastic whilst on the train. Nobody else knows.
Yeah. No, but that is exactly it. There's totally a rhythm to it. Like if you kind of think about it in terms of like music or whatever, and you're
Mm,
using your sentences, like word painting is the wrong thing, but like the actual structure of your sentence can help add to the scene. You don't have to write it like your other scenes. It's not like your other scenes. It's something
yeah,
different.
yeah. And do you think that after a characters have both had that most very vulnerable, intimate moment, well, I mean, what kind of happens after? I mean, Amy Andrews talks about it being something, things always get worse after sex for the characters. What's your thoughts?
Yes, I've heard that bit of advice as well. I think it's a really interesting thing to think about. I mean, in Four Night Stand, for example, that kind of is the case for Cameron a little bit because, like you say, he's not interested in relationship, but kind of everything that brings him closer to Jules, he kind of starts thinking that like, oh no, I want more and I want more and maybe I like her a bit more. But to him, that's he does not want to get involved with someone that he works with. So that
Mm,
is making it worse. I would say because the sex scenes are emotional scenes, because I mean, I'm a romance writer, so I'm writing a romance,
mm,
and there's a big
mm,
emotional arc and a relationship that is changing and evolving every chapter. So the sex scene will need to have some effect, even if it's not necessarily making things worse.
mm.
It will have an impact on the way the characters relate to each other moving
Yeah,
forwards in the story. Like,
yeah.
I know the manuscript I wrote before Four Night Stand, I actually wrote originally as a closed door. And then I decided to go back and add some sex scenes in. And it was a
Mm-mm.
lot harder than you think it's going to be because you can't just add a sex scene in because I'd write it in and it would change. It would have this massive knock on effect, right?
Yes.
For all
Yep.
the chapters
Yep.
afterwards. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It sort of amps up that vulnerability as
Mm,
well. And I think one of the things you were talking about there is it really fed into his. It's almost like I want to call it the wound or the misbelief because earlier on he's had, without spoilers, he's had a moment that is
hmm.
he has a reason for not wanting to have an office romance, and this then challenges that, and he has to face that part of himself. It's what I love about that is you can see the connections between it's like the foreshadowing and then the event of the beginning to unravel and come to terms with the truth of what's the way he may be pushing love away, for example. I love that. Oh, sweet. Any so just one more question on
Yeah.
spicy or
Yes.
even just a conversation piece on it.
Hmm.
Um how integral do you think writing short, spicy romance stories like for Spicy Bites has been to you developing your ability to write it for a novel?
Interesting. I mean, because I was writing fanfic for many years before that, and I was writing
Mm,
spicy in the fanfic space as well, it's like I already had like a confidence around writing those scenes. So, yeah, but I think the one thing that is different, I guess, with those is with the Romance Writers of Australia, the Spicy Bites, their short story contests, you get like critique back, right?
mm,
And so which you don't really get with fanfic. I mean, people are like, "I love it, didn't like
yeah,
it, whatever." Like it's not
yeah.
you're not getting writers telling you like this is
Mm,
why it worked or this is why it didn't work.
mm,
So
mm,
I think that was definitely interesting. And I do remember one time one of my stories that didn't get chosen for to be included in the anthology.
mhm.
It was because well, one like reason that kept coming up is like I hadn't written the actual first time that the characters had sex in the story. I'd
Right.
written like a later time just before they kind of broke up.
Mm,
And like I actually got from a few people like, oh, like it would have been really great if we had that first moment. Cause I think in a romance, like
mm,
the firsts are really important
mm.
to the characters and the relationships. So I guess to relate that to a bit of advice, I would say first that first sex scene, be aware of what it's doing to your story, into the relationship and the character development.
Yeah, it is the most vulnerable moment I think for the two people. It's like they're bearing more than their bodies, I think, at that first time. Well, that's my opinion. I don't know whether that's true for everybody, but that's how I think about it. But thank you for sharing that. I am going to move us on to have a chat about your Instagram
Yeah.
profile, which I absolutely love. And I see you put up a lot of stories, lots of romance novels on there. Think maybe these stories have shaped your writing. Do you have any recent reads that you could recommend?
Yeah, I do read a lot. I read very
Yep.
quickly.
I know, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I mean, it comes and goes. I mean, sometimes, if I'm really into a manuscript or whatever, I read less. And that's fine.
Mm-mm.
That's just how it
Yep.
goes.
Mm,
But I find, I mean, to be honest, I'm not necessarily a critical reader. Like, I am mostly reading for enjoyment. Like, that's
mm.
what a hobby
Yep.
for me. So,
Yep.
I would say I learn more from books that I don't enjoy and don't finish,
Right.
because
Yep.
often I will ask myself then, well, why don't I like this? Why isn't this working for me? But you're asking yourself kind of as a reader almost. So then you end up getting this big list going of things that you don't like as a reader that are off-putting, that when you're writing, then you can make sure you avoid doing those
Mm.
things, because presumably there are other people who are reading and having the same reaction as you to these books.
Mm.
So
Mm. Yeah, that's a good thing to do, is that maybe have a little bit of a think about why it is something has stopped you from reading rather than, yes. But I think there's value in both. Like, you
mm,
read everything and you know what you like just from what you've read, and
yeah.
then you know what you don't like from what you've, yeah,
Yes, I
what
possibly
not
should
finished.
do more like critical reading of the texts that I really like, because I'd probably learn from those as well. But sometimes you just get so caught up in the story, you almost need to
Yeah.
go back and do a reread of those to really
Yes.
understand what's
Yeah, yeah.
happening
And
there.
some books are like a comfort zone. It's like
Mm,
you just come back to them because they are those books that, it's a soft place to land even though it's not for the characters.
yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, sorry, characters.
So I see heaps of great stuff on your Instagram. First of all, can you tell people what your Instagram handle is?
Yeah, it's Georgia Moore Writer.
Georgia Moore Writer. So you have a thing called Trope Tuesday and Wednesday Writing Advice.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about both of them? What are they, and what inspired you to start?
Yeah, so they're pretty new things that I've started, but they're basically like recurring post series on Instagram.
Hmm.
So Trope Tuesday is like I'll pair up with an author and they'll pick a trope from one of their books, and then we'll just recommend some other books that have that trope in them.
Right.
Yes, and then writer, yeah, I think it's fun. Like, everyone's always looking for new books, and I think if it comes from someone
Yeah.
that you like their books, or read
Yeah.
similar to them, it's kind of got a bit more of an element of like trust
Mm,
behind it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the other one then is Writer Wednesday. So that's basically authors from like all different genres just offer like a little bite-sized bit of writing advice. It could be actually about craft, or it could be like a resource recommendation, something about like authoring and like social media branding. And they just share just like a tiny little snippet of advice for other authors.
Yeah. And so if somebody wanted to be a part of that, what have they got to do to get in contact with you?
Okay, so it's all the information's on my website actually. So if you go to georgiamorewriter.com, there's a
Mm-hmm.
little tab there that says for writers, and it kind of breaks down what the different posts are about, and then there's just application forms, and essentially you just fill in a form, and that's
Fabulous.
that's it.
Wow. Wow. What I really like about the Trope Tuesday is it allows people to go, I really love that trope. I'm going to, or if that trope's not for them, they go, okay, well, sorry, writers, I'm not going to read that one. I'm going to get over this. But this is, we have so many options because reading is a personal taste thing, isn't it? I mean, it's
Yes.
not all about, one book is not going to satisfy every reader out there, is it? We
No.
all have the things that we gravitate towards. And the other thing I really love is the Writing Wednesday advice. And I have to say thank you for putting me on there too. I
Uh,
appreciate that. It was really lovely to collaborate through Instagram, which is a great new feature that allows you to connect and with other people on the platform and share it with your followers. Do you find that you get lots more interaction with people from those new, the Trope Tuesday and the Wednesday writing advice, or is there other
mm,
stuff that gets more interest at this
yeah.
point?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like because I don't notice like a marked difference in the kind of
Mm.
response I'm getting versus like other kind of posts that I put up on the Instagram. But it's still early days, so they might
Yeah, it is.
get a bit
Yeah,
more traction. Because I've also started like very new to it, but I started a channel as well for the Writer
I love it.
Wednesday one specifically, just to make sure like
Oh,
if that's what people are really interested in, if
yep.
they're coming here for writing advice, just to make sure that
Mm-mm-mm.
they don't miss it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but it's
That's great.
definitely I do see a lot of, like, I would say the writing ones definitely seem to be resonating more with, like, the writers who follow me for
Mm,
obvious
mm,
reasons. So,
mm.
generally, the comments on those are mostly from writers who follow me as
Yeah,
opposed to, like, just readers.
yeah. I think it's great because you've got a profile that has 2 audiences there. It's not just readers, it's not just writers. You can talk to both, and there can be some for want of another term, cross-pollination, can't
Mhm,
there? I mean,
mhm.
people so a lot of let me try it again. A lot of writers are readers, and
Yes.
they have friends and recommend it, and that's great. So let's talk a bit more about your social media content because I'm really keen to understand that. And also for any tips that you've got for helping other people begin to market their books, either before they've written and
Mm.
published it or even during or after. How do you approach that?
Yes, there's a lot, I guess.
Mm,
And it is a bit funny because I do have, like, my Instagram account is like there's some kind of writing stuff on it, but then also there's quite a big, like a strong, like bookstagram, like book
mm,
Instagram element as well. So a lot of it is kind of more just nice photos of books.
yes.
But I mean, I guess the key that often you'll hear when people talk about using Instagram as an author is like, you shouldn't be just promoting your book all the time.
Mm,
So by also
mm,
having that bookstagram element, I can get like a good mix of stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's important too because there's nothing more boring actually than having a writer only promote their own book and not, it's like it's a social platform. You want
Yeah.
to interact with the person, you want to know about them as a human being, and what else do they like, and it's not just that. But I do love your videos. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how do you keep that, your friend, your social media fresh and engaging for your audience?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, fresh, sometimes I
Hmm.
feel like it's not super fresh because I have like the same kind of post types that I will repeat over and
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
But, that's like, honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
No.
Bookstagram is kind of built in some ways on these repeating, like days of the week are often themed. So, like on Monday, a lot of people post a stack of blue books, and on Wednesday, they'll post like a stack of pink books. So, like, doing those
Okay.
things, like, your followers expect it, and
Do
there's
they?
nothing, well, I mean, they don't
Hmm.
expect it, but what I'm saying is, like, you're not it's, it'll just be part of the ecosystem of Instagram. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, yes, I know I've also gone off on a waffle now.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's because when I first started Instagram, I remember I would just really had this idea in my head that every post had to really be saying something. Like it had to
Yeah.
be a review, or it had to be like the books had to spell out a word, or, like it really had to say something. But these days, I think I'm a lot more looser with what I post.
Mm.
Like sometimes it is just a pretty photo of books. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be saying anything specific, and
Mm.
that takes a bit of pressure off for me when I wasn't
Yes.
trying to, like, actually have a really big point that I was making with everything. Yeah.
Mm. I
So
love that. I love that. I just wanna give you a break there for a second, but also to say that, I like the playfulness of it. I don't know, social media is a way, it has, for want of another term, there's a perception that we're all perfect. And it sort of just it is not true, we're not perfect, but we also just enjoy life, and I
mm,
love
mm.
that there's that side of it. Like, I love seeing your videos where you've, jumped or something changes and, they're fun and they're engaging to watch and, they bring a smile to your life and lift your heart, but they also help make you memorable. Even though
Mm.
maybe it's the same format, I think sometimes that repeating isn't a bad thing in social media at all,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
as long as it's not every single post every single day.
Yeah, yeah, and the reels, I mean, the other thing is, like, obviously, if you're doing it, because I try and post, I mean, I post every day,
Mhm.
and so that takes time, so you need to find a way to have fun with
Mm,
it as well. So for me, like, I actually it's a bit like the joy I get from creating these stories. Thinking of fun reel ideas
yeah,
also can be a source of joy for me, so,
yeah. That's great
yeah.
because you should be having fun. It shouldn't actually be a it's a task for a writer
Yes, yes.
to market their books and to help, I don't know, lift everybody up, but it's also that it shouldn't be a drag, I don't think, and it is hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well,
It is
that
hard.
That is why those kind of Bookstagram standard post ideas, coming back to the same kind of post type and
Yes.
reusing it over and over, can be good because maybe you have weeks where you're not that inspired, but you're like, okay, it's Monday, I'm going to post a photo of some blue books. It's Tuesday, I'm going to like grab 2 books and do 2 book Tuesday. It's Wednesday, I'll do some photos of pink books. It's Friday, I'll do a flat lay or something.
Yeah.
So you can really, you don't have to come up with your own ideas. Like, I also
Yes.
think another place where I get a lot of my ideas from is just following other people. And if I
Mm,
see something that I like, I'll save the post. I've got a little folder on my Instagram called Inspiration, and I'll save it
mm,
there. So I can go back and look at that and be like, okay, I'm going to do my take on this. And yeah, so that could be another thing as well. You don't have to, if you don't have to be spending all your creative juice here. You can save it for your
mm.
novel and just really honestly like copy what other people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am mindful of the time. I've had you here for almost an hour, Georgia.
Yeah.
So
Time has flown. It's
it
been
has flown,
fabulous.
hasn't it? It's been really good. I've loved unpacking this. So I just think maybe hone in on how do you balance sharing personal insights with your professional updates on your writing with using social media. And you can think about things like, even I think you've got a Substack as well. Like, how do you balance that part of your marketing?
Yeah. I mean, when we say personal insights, you mean like my personal life kind of
Yeah.
stuff?
Oh, yeah. Being a human being, relatable, I often see posts, well, I used to see posts of people putting the washing out, for example, like, yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit talking about the
Yeah.
different platforms. It is a little
Mm,
bit platform led. So probably the place where I'm most personal is in my newsletter. So I send a monthly newsletter out, which is I'm doing through Substack now. And that is where I will actually put a little bit of like, oh, here's what I've been up to over the month. And I won't necessarily be writing
okay.
stuff. So
Yeah.
that is a place. But otherwise, like I'm consciously don't share a lot of my personal
Mm,
life. And the things
mm,
that I do, it's kind of like one of these kind
curated.
of standard, yeah, it's curated. I mean, I know that there's kind of this marketing or like, I don't know.
And it's almost a trend, isn't it? It's like
Yes, I'm trying to say there's kind of like a theory where it's like you have your 4 pillars, right? It's for your social
right.
media and you have your 4 pillars and you do stuff that feeds each of them. So one of them is like your writing and your promo. And I mean, I don't necessarily prescribe to this, but like other
Yes.
people might. And one is like maybe I'm in a choir. So one of my pillars is like I'll post about my choir stuff. And then
Mm,
maybe another pillar is like I've got a dog. I'll post dog stuff. So you kind of have it like that. You just choose a few elements of that make you, and that's what you
mm,
share. So I
mm,
do share sometimes to my Instagram stuff about my choir, but like
mm.
often my personal stuff I'll put up as like a story as opposed to like
Yeah.
a post that will stay there forever on my grid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good because writers need privacy.
Hmm.
Maybe you become a public figure once you
Yeah.
start putting your book out there to some degree. And readers, I know I've loved writers, and so you find their website because you want to know about them as a human being, as a person, and you just want to let them know you really appreciate the effort they've put into the book. And now that I'm a writer, I can actually tell how much effort
Hmm.
they've put into that book. Yeah, but you need to be I think it's important to have boundaries around that as well.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us, last sort of questions before we wrap up? What are you writing now? Can you share anything about it?
Well, I've been writing for like most of the second half of this year a Christmas novella. Yes, it's called Checking You Twice. It's like a steamy second chance holiday romance. It's about this woman called Nikki who flies from Australia to America to surprise her sister for Christmas. But when she gets there, her sister's gone on holiday, and the person who is house sitting for her is her ex boyfriend. So there's a bit of forced proximity there as well. This is my first time self publishing anything. So it has been
Mhm.
quite a learning experience. There's been a lot of, in addition to the writing, the editing, there's been actually learning how to self publish all the admin stuff and that. But it's, yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So, just in time, is it going to come out? It's going to come out just in time for Christmas?
Yeah,
Have you got a
so
release date yet?
it's releasing on November the 24th, like
November
a
the
month before
24th, everyone.
Christmas. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that is so close because we are recording this on the 26th of
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just about a month, just a bit under a month away. How
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it goes really well. I will get my copy.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Georgia, for being so patient with me and being so open with us about, your writing experiences and what you've learned along the way. Now, before we go, of course, one more thing. Where can people find you online and on social media one more time?
Yep, so you can find me online at Georgia Moore Writer in most places. I'm most active on Instagram though, but I have Facebook and also Substack, which is where I send my newsletter from. And then my website is georgiamorewriter.com.
So make sure that you connect with Georgia Moore on Instagram and, of course, Substack and your website, and get your copy of 4 Night Stand today. And I'm just, for those who be watching the video, that's the cover on my Kindle. It is in black and white, but it's very pretty when you see it.
It's a bright yellow. Colour. You will see it.
Yeah, you will see it. Well, thanks again for that. And that's it.
I've had a great time. Like, honestly, I love talking about writing and books. So thank you for inviting me on.
You are welcome. Oh, wow. What a wonderful and inspiring conversation that I've just had with Georgia Moore today. Thank you so much, Georgia, for being on Weaving Words into Stories. It has been such a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I hope that if you've been listening or watching, that you're getting lots out of this interview that you can apply to your own creativity, to your writing, to your plotting, and especially to your romances. So again, if you have found any value at all in this podcast or the video, YouTube stuff, or anything that's on any of the social media platforms, do leave a review or tell your creative writing friends about Weaving Words into Stories with Selina, and make sure you share, because it helps me and my channel and my socials to get noticed and to help other writers just like you, as well as to grow this really supportive, what I hope is a supportive community. And of course, let's spread the word and empower each other. Let's lift each other up and have fun doing it, whilst we're also being super creative out in the world. But again, if you are actually struggling with your writing and you're looking for more support, I am a fiction book coach. So do please head over to empoweredwords.com.au if you'd like to talk to me about your story and get some one-on-one help and support. So again, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for watching. I really can't wait to see you next time on Weaving Words into Stories with me, Selina. So until next time, keep writing, keep believing in yourself. You've got this. Weave words into stories and do the best you can. Your stories are needed in this world. So until next time, happy writing. Bye for now.